Hey dreamers, my name is Sophie, aka Tam, French with a Vietnamese background. Welcome to the Tam Show, where courage is key. By watching the interviews, you will learn what school doesn't teach you. I'll show you all the actual hard and real in-between process that shape it brave, inspiring entrepreneurs. You will know what to do to start and accomplish your idea or project. Get ready, guys.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Time Show for a new episode. Today we are meeting Dana Drahos. She's from New Jersey, America. After working 2 years in New York City, she decided to fly to Vietnam. She has now her own podcast here where she interviews people of all kinds to share amazing stories. She's also a podcast manager, producer where she helps entrepreneurs to build their own podcast. In Saigon, she also gives in-person workshops to help people to go through the process of how to launch their own podcast. Now, let's go to meet her.
Welcome to my crib.
This is Dana.
Hi.
How are you today?
Come on in. I'm good. I'm excited to show you a little behind the scenes.
Sure. So you just woke up, right?
Yeah, totally. I woke up like this.
Okay, so can you show us a bit around and what is your morning routine and what do you do in the morning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually I put my phone in my cabinet over there.
Okay.
So that when the alarm goes off, I'm not tempted to just turn it off or hit snooze or something. I need to get myself out of bed, so I actually have to stand up, walk over, and turn the alarm off. And then I will immediately open these curtains and just let all the light in, because otherwise I'll just jump back into bed and hibernate. So then I get up and then I actually walk around outside. I do a little short walk also just to get the juices flowing and get me waking up more. So this is usually around 7 in the morning if I can make it up. And then I'll come back and maybe either do some kind of yoga or some kind of HIIT workout that I just find on YouTube.
Nice.
And I'll actually go up to the rooftop and do that. And it's really nice because it's so bright outside and there's so much activity already going on outside. And you get the nice view of the city and things like that. So all of these things just to help me wake up.
Yes.
Then I come back down and I will do a bit of meditation. So right now I'm actually doing this 21-day meditation challenge. Yeah. And it's been really helpful to actually have this accountability. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of random strangers who I don't know.
From Vietnam or from all over?
From all over,
Okay.
yeah. And I just need to basically type every single day, day 1 done, day 2 done. And it's a little journaling exercise as well as a guided meditation. And meditation is pretty hard for me. It's hard for me to turn off everything going on in my head. But I've definitely found it's really helpful to have that moment of quiet at the beginning of the day. I've really had this mantra lately of mornings are for me. And I'll explain a little bit later, maybe in our interview, what that means. But yeah, just to continue the morning routine, then I will take a shower, eat, and then I can also show you my little affirmations.
Since when do you write and tell affirmation to yourself?
Yeah, I wrote these, I don't know, a few months ago.
Wow.
And to be honest now, I barely even notice them. They're so just there that I barely notice them. But I found that I had to think about what are the mental blocks that I'm having, and like what kinds of things do I need to say to myself to overcome that, or to like rewire my brain to think in a different way. So one of them, I am abundant. This came from like, you know, having that kind of scarcity mindset of there aren't enough clients for me, or there isn't enough money for me, or like all those things, all my worries. I am patient with myself and I take things slowly. I found in entrepreneurship and just in life in general, I was getting very like, why isn't this happening now? Like, why haven't I figured this out now? Why aren't I successful yet? And it was only like a few months. And, you know, I think when you're young, like, it feels like it's so much longer than it actually is. So just reminding myself to take my time and like have patience and be gentle with myself too, and not get like angry or like judge myself if things aren't moving so quickly. I'm smart, I'm confident. I think those are obvious. I set boundaries. This one was really important for me because especially with having clients and like trying to draw the line of not giving and giving and giving to the point where like I'm just empty and I have nothing left to give, and having the ability to say no, like, no, that's not actually the service I provide, or that's not what I'm here for.
Not to value yourself in a way.
Exactly. I listen to my body. This means I tend to be a lot of in my head and like thinking and thinking and thinking, and I'll like think myself into a black hole. And this one is just to remind me more that I should listen to the inside, like my heart, and just notice my physical reactions in terms of like when I come across a person, like, does this person make me feel good, or
intuition?
My intuition, or like, do I feel uncomfortable around this person? I'm financially free, again, like that money mindset kind of thing. And then I do what is fun and I say no to what is not fun, just reminding me like, am I enjoying myself, or am I forcing myself to do something because I think I have to? And again, it's like I haven't perfected these at all in any way. It's just literally, it takes like a constant reminder every single day to sink that in.
Do you think it is helping you? Do you see the results in a way?
I think so far it helps to have that reminder of like when I'm in the situation. I think it helps me to just be more aware, like more self-aware, instead of just going along in life like not thinking about how anything is impacting me, or not remembering to listen to myself and how I feel. It's just it's like a little voice inside my head of like, oh, remember we said that this morning. And so I think it's hard to see like a big change. It's more like these tiny little things, and I think eventually down the line, like all the tiny things will like exponentially build up, and then I'll be able to look back and be like, wow, you know, a few years ago I would have never been able to just say no like that to a client, and now I just did that.
Now you say no.
So it feels like I'm not like fully there yet, but I'm on the way.
On the way.
Yes.
Really good. So nice.
Yeah. So
okay.
That is the morning routine.
Yeah, sure.
And
then when do you go to work? Can you show us how do you organize yourself, your desk, and all of that?
So after all that, then I will take this really long walk over here to my desk. This is my little calendar. It basically shows, so I'm a podcast producer, meaning I help people with podcasts to do the full like production process and getting the finalized product out there. So this helps me see the schedule among all my different clients. And yeah, so this just helps me see a big overview of all of the clients that I have and like which episode is due to go live, which is due to be recorded. I'll also have some goals for the month. So this month was really reminding me about self-care and mindset and human connection, because the past few months I kind of got into this trap where I was just working alone by myself in the coffee shop and feeling like, oh, I just have to sit here and get stuff done.
Yes.
And I was turning down invitations from people to hang out. And then eventually after like a month of that, I was like, holy shit, I'm so lonely. And just like, yeah, it's when you get into that entrepreneur thing, it just gets lonely sometimes.
Yes,
so
very.
I had to remind myself this month to make sure that I'm like going out and seeing people and having human connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, then these are just some other like goals that I have. And then in terms of actual work, so I use, this is called Trello. So it's a project management thing, software, I guess.
Yes.
It's free. I think a lot of people know about it, but this is basically how I keep track of the flow of the whole podcast episode from start to finish. So it needs to be recorded. This reminds the client like, hey, it's time to send me the recorded assets. This one is overdue, so it's like red. So then I would just go in there, I'll hide his name, but I would just be like, hey, just checking in, like, are you gonna send this recording? And then the editing part comes in, so we would then like move this card here, and this would tell our editor, okay, like time to start editing the episode. Once that's done, it moves over here. Show notes, that's me. So I will listen to the episode and write the show notes and like key takeaways.
Okay.
Then it moves into content repurposing, meaning making social media graphics and writing captions, making like video promotional things about the episode. And then to scheduling, so actually like uploading and publishing the episode and scheduling all of the social media posts and things like that. And then it'll finally move on over into live and promoted. So these are like all the ones that
you did
have
already.
been finished and they're out and live. And then showing kind of what the editing looks like. Actually, first I'll show this one. This is a really cool tool called Descript. And basically you can drag the audio in here and then it automatically transcribes the whole thing.
Wow, that's magic.
Yes, literally magic. And
magic.
then you basically edit the text as if you're editing a Word document, and that translates into editing the audio. So if I were to highlight this word and be like, I don't want this word in here for whatever reason, I would just hit delete and then it would come out of the audio.
Oh, amazing.
Which is like so nice.
Is it only in English or does it work for other languages?
Yeah, right now it's only in English.
Oh, okay. Good to
I
know.
think they might be trying to do other languages. And then once that's all done, I'll put it into this editing software called Audacity. And to do more of the like taking out noise, like background noise, or making sure like the volumes are equal, and then mixing in like intro and outro and music and things like that. And then once that's all done, like writing the show notes and everything that I just explained there. So.
Okay. Wow, I can see that you are very organized and it's amazing. Like, how did you get all the tips of using Trello? And as did you learn by yourself or because you had some mentor or?
Yeah, pretty much everything I've learned is through YouTube.
YouTube is live.
Anytime I have a question, it's like straight to Google or YouTube, just like type it in. And so someone actually did a screen share of their like podcast project management, and I was just like, yep, that makes sense. Because I wasn't always working with other team members. It used to be just me doing this whole thing. But then I started hiring people to help me with the different aspects because I wanted to bring on more clients and it was just getting too much. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do you organize with multiple people and making sure like everything moves and everyone knows like what's their responsibility. So this has been really helpful for that because you can also leave comments and communicate with each other, ask questions. So yeah, that's pretty much how I learned all that.
Okay, nice.
And
Thank you, Dana.
this is like a final product. So this shows like here's the episode, and then there's like the show notes, some pictures thrown in there, links. This is like really long, but like links at the bottom too of how to follow this guest. So yeah, that's like the final product, and people can just click, and then you would start to hear the episode come on, and you could just play it right in there.
Hey Dana, so thank you for welcoming us in your amazing house.
Thank you.
And for showing us all your tips.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell me more about how is it to be a podcast producer? How the idea came, and could you tell us what's the tips to start a business like this?
Yeah, so it started because so I came to Vietnam having no idea that I was gonna start a business. That was not in the plans at all. I was just like, I just want to travel and I'm just gonna teach English and see where that goes. Pretty quickly found out that English teaching was not my favorite thing to do. I loved like talking with the students and learning more about their background and sharing my background, but the actual English teaching and like grammar and things like that, I was like, ugh. But I knew that I still wanted to be living abroad, so I'm like, okay, how am I going to be able to stay here and not teach English?
Yes.
So I started exploring different ways of working online and ended up learning about virtual assistant, meaning like working online and doing like administrative tasks that a lot of like office workers do, but just doing it from your computer remotely. So as I was trying to find like what is my niche, like what specific skills am I going to offer in that, I just started thinking about the people, the type of people I would like to work with, and what kinds of things that I like and would enjoy. And started realizing, you know, I really like listening to podcasts, and a lot of the type of people I want to work with who are like business coaches or life coaches, talking about personal development and things like that, a lot of them have podcasts. And I was like, I wonder how much work it takes to have a podcast. And turns out it's a lot of work. And so I just started diving in and going on Google, going on YouTube, like figuring out the behind the scenes of how a podcast comes together, and just learning those skills. And then I kind of just started putting it out there to my network, like, hey, I'm looking for this type of person. I can help them with this and this and this, like managing podcasts. Does anyone know anyone? And then one of my friends, two of my friends knew people and recommended me. So that's how I got my first few clients, just by reaching out to my network.
Nice.
And then from there, obviously, like building even more of those skills and learning like what new other skills do I need to learn and add to my portfolio, I guess. And just building more and more confidence to be able to approach more people. What were the other questions?
So what are the tips to start a business like this?
Tips to start a business like this. I guess I would say realizing that there is a lot to know, and like being able to take the initiative to do your own research and learn all of these things. There are so many different levels of, I guess, expertise and experience when it comes to podcast editing, because there's such a large spectrum. You have some people who just know like basic stuff. And obviously like hiring those people is going to be cheaper than hiring someone who like literally went to university and got a degree in audio engineering, and they are like very like they can literally put together a whole beautiful story with like sound and everything. So there's a huge spectrum, and just knowing like where you fall on that spectrum and like what types of skills do you want to learn. And there's a lot of different sort of zones of expertise in podcast management. And what I mean is like there's the editing aspect, which is a very like technical, and there is some creative element to it. But then there's the writing aspect, writing the show notes, writing like promotional stuff that would entice the listener to want to actually download and listen. And so that is very like much of a creative aspect to it, and like making graphics and stuff. So there's a lot of different skills going on, and that's why I ended up hiring more people on my team. And like I did go ahead and hire an actual audio engineer who just like knew what he was doing way more than I did, because there can be issues that come up in audio, like problems with sound, and like I know you've experienced with your editing, and so some of that stuff, it's like, okay, honestly, I don't know how to fix that. So I'm just gonna get someone who is professional and knows how to do that. And thinking about the things that you enjoy doing and that you have the confidence to do versus what help do you need to get the job done.
So you learn all by yourself at the beginning, like through YouTube and through your friends or else. And so what are the steps from A to Z to produce a podcast then? Because you need to be really creative, like maybe manage some softwares. And could you list us from A to Z, what do you do first?
Yes, I'll do it from the perspective of my own podcast, Creators in Saigon, because that's more of like the full thing. So from the very beginning, of course, there's finding a guest if you have an interview podcast. So for me, I mostly just think about my network again and like my friends and like literally going to events happening in Saigon. For example, I just went to a talent show the other day to support Tarek, who was another guest on Creators in Saigon. And through that, I mean, it was a talent show. So there were like singers and dancers and comedians and like all sorts of stuff. And I literally felt like a real talent scout where I was like, ooh, I'm going to discover the next star. And I was like writing notes and like, yes, I'm going to get that person on the show. And it worked. I mean, I met people so that I was like, yes, like definitely going to get them on. In the beginning, it started out me just asking my friends to come on because I was trying to get comfortable with interviewing and training myself, and sort of like getting out the nerves so that now when it's someone that I don't know so well, I can, you know, it's a little bit easier, to just go with the flow and think on the fly. So you're gonna look for guests, and you're also going to want to think about what is the topic of this episode, like what's the main point of this episode. In the beginning, I was doing just more of like random, like I'm just interviewing a person and I'm just going to get their story.
Their story, but it was not focused on the person.
Right, it was so like unfocused, and so then when I was trying to make the name for the episode title, I'm like, okay, we talked about like 500 different things. Like
I got the same.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what to call this episode because there's nothing. It's just like everything, you know? And I don't know, I think there's value in just sharing someone's story just for what it is. But even in terms of SEO, like search engine optimization. If you're going into it thinking about a specific topic that that your ideal listener is going to be going and like searching for, that just helps you get seen in results so much more by like narrowing really tight on like a certain topic. So in order to do that, I just thought about my ideal listener and what kinds of things are they struggling with in their life right now. And most of that comes from just me. Like, I'm my own ideal listener, you know? So I think of, okay, what am I struggling with here in this expat life, in this entrepreneur life? And so things like perfectionism and like loneliness and all these things. And then I go and think about, okay, who would be a good person to talk about that topic and get their story? And also thinking about just how can I share more of this experience of being an expat in Vietnam, like for people outside listening. So bringing on people like you, it's like a very unique situation. Being like both Vietnamese and expat. So like, what is that experience like? And it's mostly just, what am I actually curious and fascinated about to know? Like, what are the questions that I have that I want answered? And then usually other people are interested too.
Yeah, they're very interested.
Yeah, so finding the guest, and then it's like the management of scheduling. I mean, this is just like the logistical details, but that's the part, probably the most like annoying part for me, is trying to figure out the schedule, and like some days don't work for people and sometimes, and just like
need to be a bit patient on that.
And then like coordinating with my studio too, like oh, can I book this time? No. Okay, can I book this time? It's like and then I also have a co-host, so it just has to work for like so many people. So figuring that all out, and then once you're scheduled, then actually showing up for the recording. I forgot, like backtrack, obviously preparing for the interview too.
So how do you prepare the interview?
So for me, again, if it's someone who is my friend or that I've been following for a while, like I already kind of have my questions in mind of what I'm curious about. In the beginning, I would write this like massive list of questions that I thought like I need to get through. Now, because I've realized in doing that, it doesn't allow me to actively listen to what they're saying. So then I end up like not listening and then trying to just like jump to my own
trying
list.
To link it and jump on the question, but then she didn't finish.
Right. And so it just gets like confusing. So now I just try to have what are the main high-level themes or topics that I want to touch on, and then I might have like a few actual questions, but they're more for if there's like a lull in the conversation and I don't know where to go next, I can just like fall back to these questions. But now it's mostly like, okay, what's the first question that's going to get them to tell a story and like dive in, and then I'm just listening to you talk, and maybe like I'm taking notes as you're talking so that I can remember what points I want to bring up or what I want to comment on. And then the conversation just seems to flow naturally from there. And it's so nice too to have a co-host, because if I start to feel like I don't know where to go next, I'll just like look at Lam and be like,
help me.
Like ask something.
That's amazing, because you started alone and then Lam joined you, and I think it's a good duo that you do together, and plus it's helping you a lot because she's Vietnamese. So you can also like invite Vietnamese guests that struggle maybe with English, so she can help you on that side.
And it's just nice too to be able to get both like a Westerner perspective and Vietnamese perspective. I can just like look at her and be like, and what is it like for you in Vietnam with this same situation? Like preparing for the interview, I just bring in like little notebook with some notes. I'll usually ask the guest to prepare some kind of intro, little bio about them, how they would want to introduce themselves. Then we do the recording, and then then the editing, show notes, social media, publishing, and then finally I will take the episode link and just like go in all the Facebook groups that are in Vietnam and just be like, hey, new episode. Posting everywhere. Like, visibility. Yeah, like this is what it's about. This is why you should listen. So those are all the steps.